when a customer walks in the store and they start seeing the first rack is all high end, they might turn around and leave. And we don't want to be caught in that situation. So what we really practice in our stores is mixing those price points. If we have a high end dress, right behind it is a moderately priced dress. So if they're looking for dresses, they've got several options of
Options.
price points.
Boutique hustle.
Hello, welcome to Boutique Hustle Unzipped. I'm Sonia.
And I am Hannah. So excited to be here, Sonia.
Hello, Hannah. Why don't you go ahead and introduce our very first ever guest?
So excited to bring on my mom. She is our first guest on our podcast. Her name is Debbie, and she's not only my mom, but also my business partner. So we kind of had a little tea about Debbie and Cindy in the background. But Mom, formally introduce yourself. We're so happy you're here.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me. I am Debbie Harrington, co-founder of our company Herringstones of 36 years. And we home office and our flagship store is in Monroe, Louisiana, which is where me and my sister, who is my partner, live. And we've lived there our whole life.
Very
Yes.
cool.
Lots of history in that little brain of yours.
Yes, over 36 years, there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of
Lot of-
do's and a lot of don'ts.
A whole lot of don'ts.
Whole lot of don'ts.
But when you get the do's right, it all works. It's like the perfect little pizza pie.
That's right. Absolutely. But the thing about retail is a lot of times the do's don't always work. So they become don'ts, because it's
Yes.
always changing so fast,
The ever living cycle of retail.
Yes.
Oh, there's
All
not one
right.
without the other, basically.
That's exactly it.
And I think that's what makes it so fun and rewarding and the longevity of it because it does change so often. You
Yes.
can't get used to it before something changes, and so that's to me what keeps it so alive and in your blood. And I mean, I started this business when I was 27 years old and I'm 62 and I still feel like, that it's not old, it's still so fresh and it's rewarding. It's super challenging, and,
It's not for the faint of heart.
it's not for the faint of heart. Absolutely. Because, you're going to go through, uncontrollable times in life and, and economical times and, the COVID and all the things that no one plans, and you have to pivot and adjust. And all that comes with, experience and still learning. We still learn every day. We learn from Hannah and her team. And, so we don't know everything still, and I don't know that you ever will.
I
And
don't
so,
believe you do.
and so we learn from, anybody and everybody that we can, that can help us stay alive in our business, and that's always a lot of fun too.
Well, great.
Love it. Well, today, fans out there, we are setting the stage and we're diving into one of the most important things that are often overlooked drivers of boutique sales. And this is called visual merchandising. It is often something that people don't conversate about. I do find that when people open up boutiques for the very first time, that's a conversation that's not had at all. And you kind of go into some of these newer fresh stores and that is something that lacks. Sometimes I've told my mom before, if we could just get our hands in that store, it would be perfect. Because merchandising is such a key role into what drives those sales. Mom, you've always said the floor sells the clothes before anyone says a word. What do you actually mean by that?
Well, everyone that's worked in our company knows that is my pet peeve is merchandising. It is just the key. When you actually, it's before you even walk in, it's your window front, the drive-by traffic, you want to pull them in just by your storefront. It's so hugely important. And it is such a pet peeve of mine because I'm a shopper like that too. And if there's no appeal, curbside appeal, then you're not even going to get them there, not to mention in your door. So that would be the first key would be your curbside appeal of your boutique as your storefront. And we constantly work on that in all 5 of our stores. And it's a thing, and we do have our timely flips and, changes every single day. And then as you walk in, it's just so important to grab that customer with a wow factor right when they walk in the door. And that being, Hannah, what we go from, the very first table as you walk in has to be a wow. And, we used to make sure the front was great and kind of, make, the racks and I'll go out through the back of the store and becomes less important because it was the back of the store. But we learned a long time ago that the back of the store has to be just as wow as when you walk in the front because you will lose them,
You got to
so
get them back there.
you got to get them back there. And
Hmm.
so, we just have, we research it as well, constantly seeing what we can do different in our brick and mortar store in Monroe. We've changed the carpet 2 or 3 times. Now, obviously, we don't have carpet. We have floor. We've changed the painting. We've sprayed the ceilings. I mean, it's so important to keep your boutique fresh. I mean, don't even go any further if you're not going to do that. It's a constant investment. And it's not always a lot of money, but it is a constant investment. It has to be dialed into your expenses. Absolutely. It cannot be avoided.
Oh, I would
Sonia,
agree
kind of
with that.
curious. I'm curious, Sonia, on the wholesale side of things, do you like typically see your retailers use or not use visuals when they're buying at market with you?
Visuals, I don't know that they have visuals. I feel like they come prepared with the idea in their minds, but that can be a slippery slope too, because if you're really honed in on a certain whatever you come in, like whatever you have in mind to purchase, you might miss out on some other amazing stuff. And I'm of the believer that, yeah, you can, like we've shopped before when you're in town and we buy with a certain theme in mind or whatever, but you don't discount other things that you're seeing because you can merchandise, you can complement those pieces into whatever looks. You can make little vignettes. Like
Yeah.
the short answer is no, I would say,
I
but
find that
they
is
do
such a
always come with an
difference.
idea in mind. And I always say, like, stick to your concept, right?
Right.
You're as you shop, remember who you are, who your customer is, what the look of your store is, and just kind of just stay within those parameters so you don't confuse the customer.
Yeah, it is different too whenever you're thinking wholesale versus retail when you're talking about
Hmm.
merchandising, because I feel
Hmm.
like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the vendors that are just say at the showrooms in downtown LA, their merchandising thought process is totally different than ours. What do you think, like from your end, when they're thinking about their mannequins and what's displayed in their storefronts and like where they sit their rack for bestsellers? Like, what do you think, or what is your opinion on what their strategy is to speak to us as the customer? Because I know that's a totally different strategy than we have for our actual consumer in our storefronts.
Well, unfortunately, I have to say that there's not a lot of that out here in the showrooms.
Right.
I would love to see more of it. The truth is I personally, as a buyer, because of my experience, no longer need, I can do without it, but I like it. Like
Right.
I like a pretty window. I still want to walk by a showroom and be like it happened to me yesterday. There was a dress in a window and I was like, "Oh, I didn't see that there yesterday." So it did draw me in. And I think uh, a lot of the vendors don't put a lot of importance into what that showroom looks like. It's like mini warehouses. You guys have been it could some
Right.
are messy, some are pretty, some are just a big storefront with racks to pick for wholesale buying. They have to keep in mind that they're selling to us as well. And so I see it sometimes. I don't see it most times. I think more focus should be put on it for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I want to back into a topic leading off of this, but before we get to that, I want to ask mom, how whenever we are at the LA showrooms and typically Sonia is with us and her team, what suggestions do you look for or how do you adapt with each store's different vibes that we have? We have 5 locations. We have new listeners out there. So each store is a little bit of a different vibe. So when we are out as a buying team, mom typically is the one who leads the buying team. So when we are there, because the merchandising, as Sonia said, isn't in your face, you dig, but I do want to get into some pointers so that the vendors that are listening could maybe take some insight from you, Sonia. And we can kind of get into the psychology of shoppers as well from different directions. But What suggestions do you take from wholesalers whenever we're out there, whether it be from Sonia's team or directly from the vendor itself?
Well, we usually go with a plan, with what we're looking for, like Sonia mentioned earlier. And we are usually building a story, a theme, or whatever we're focused on out there, whether it be homecoming, game day. I'm just saying that because that's what we're doing right now. So when we go into each of the showrooms, we're able to really focus on our game plan, on the story that we're trying to build in all locations. As Hannah mentioned, they vary a little bit in each store. So we have to spend time strategizing that as well. And Sonia and her team are so good about taking care of all the back ends while we stay so focused on our building our story and our plan of action to take back home. And within that being said, we are merchandising as we go along because we're videoing in each showroom, because one showroom bleeds into another showroom in what we're buying and building our story or collection. So we stay focused on actually the buying part, which could be, another conversation. But as far as the merchandising too, is forefront the whole time we're buying in each of the showrooms. It's not on a whim. By no means. We do not have to worry about the back end of the operations because Sonia's team's handling all of that. So we stayed 100% focused on all 5 locations and their needs and our customers. And our customers vary age. And that is huge. I mean, we have college girls all the way up to my age and older. And so merchandising and buying in that mindset takes a lot of focus because that is our customer and our ladies and our college girls and all the things. So, going with a plan and keeping your mindset on your store and how you want it to look and the wow factor that we're trying to accomplish is all playing a factor in those showrooms. And I don't even know, Sonia, if you realize that, but
of course, yeah.
that's where our focus is the whole time we're there, so
I mean, as you know, when you guys land, we are like, okay, what are we looking for today? What's the plan? What's the theme?
Right.
But, there's usually homecoming or there's whatever events coming up. And we're like, I've walked every day all week anyway. So I already know kind of like, okay, we got to go here, we got to go there, we got to go there. And then you obviously want to go to those vendors that are best sellers for you or just sell strong.
Well, and so much of this too is time saving. I mean, we could not do that. It would take a week for us to buy for all of our stores on our own and lose focus. And we go in 2 days and we take care of business. So,
because you burn out.
Yeah, exactly. And then, things start getting repetitious and, Sonia and her team is, they still realize what we bought when they remember you bought it over there. You don't need it here, So there's there's so much to the whole partnership of, going to LA and all the things. And even when we leave and back home, there's new arrivals that come and they know what our plan of action is and they continue to make that happen for us, even when we leave. So the whole LA process is just hugely important to our company and has given us growth. Just
it's
hugely.
Also we do Dallas markets too, and we also carry higher brands, but I think it's so important that those LA brands are in certain types of boutiques. Ours works really well like that because they're also margin builders. So for the retailers out there who only stick to one or the other, it is important to kind of mix things up like that to help with those margins. And as we all know, it's fresh on our mind right now because we're coming off of a sell season. Important margin builders are to make up for the losses that didn't work or didn't sell through quick enough, and the ones that you had longer turns on. So important to build in these brands as well.
And we're also taking those, Hannah, that with that being said, we have bought those higher end brands when we go to LA. So we have those boughts in our mind as well with the merchandising process, filling in with the marginal brands, so that it all flows together because sometimes it may not make sense to customers,
So let's go into, this is a good one.
Let me interject on that really quick because I was going to say, that goes back to a point that Debbie mentioned is you have 5 locations. There's a little bit of a different demographic throughout.
Mhm.
And some of those higher end brands that we buy, Debbie, it might just be your location and Hannah's location and not the other 3. And so that's part of, knowing the plan when you go there and then and knowing the budget and what store can afford to sell $150 dress versus, an $80 dress. So,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one more question to Debbie. And then for our listeners who either have never been to LA or don't shop LA brands, because I think they had a stigma for a long time that it was just cheap crap. It's
Uh-huh.
$10, $15 dresses.
Not
Can
no
you,
bow, honey.
I was, well, yes, on the price, but can you kind of go into the changes you've seen in quality and like just the overall look of some of the lines and the styles,
Yes,
price point, the
absolutely.
quality, how it's evolved? And to me, it's been night and day throughout the years.
It's night and day. I mean, really and truly, and some of these LA brands that have elevated their brand is a high-end brand now. Now their brand, their label sells the label,
Right.
to where some companies would private label them and have
Mhm.
changed that because they branded their own product in such a elevated way that now customers recognize their brand.
Mhm.
And so, which is what Sonia you're saying is they've just really, I think of
They've
fate.
upped the ante
You
for
know,
for
I
sure.
think of fate. I mean, we consider that one of our higher end brands,
Mhm.
and that used to not be the case with them. There's other ones, but I think of them because honestly, they're a brand. I
Yeah.
mean, Fate's a brand, and
And what
I wouldn't want to cover their label up,
Yeah, you
you
would
know,
never
right.
private label them at this point.
right? And
And
so
when we say higher end, people should know we're still talking about reasonable prices,
I'm
Correct.
talking
Yeah.
about
especially for the
over
quality.
75, under 150, under 120,
Yeah.
really that pocket between
Mhm.
75 and 125, which is
Mhm.
Mhm.
very moderately priced, but
Mhm.
it just in the I mean, it's high end looking merchandise, great
Mhm.
quality is what
Yes.
I'm referring to, the
Mhm.
quality of it. And that's why the brand though, the label has taken off stronger
Mhm.
because of that. And it's the way that, that they manufacture on their end. So
But
that
even
has
some of those, like, lower end brands and, I say that loosely, and just a lower price point brands, I feel like the quality like, I will run into a $15 dress and I'm like, "Okay, you can be 30 and I'd still buy you." So
right.
it's changed a lot, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, it has. It's had to, I mean, competition with other vendors and all the
Mhm.
things that the wholesale side goes through as we do as retailers.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just been really interesting to see when you walk by through the last, several years, a showroom that used to be and what it is now. It could be in the fig market, which is the high end product in Dallas. I would put
Right.
Fade in a fig market any day of the week. Wouldn't you,
Yeah.
Hannah?
Yes. And this podcast is sponsored by Fate.
What comes to my mind? There's
Yeah.
a lot other ones, but I do think of that
Like
one. It's
Current Air.
current
Yes,
air. Yeah.
for
The
sure.
THML. I mean,
Mhm.
there's lots of brands out there that are
Mhm.
great.
I
Mhm.
want to kind of take this and then go back to where we were talking to tie this little segment up in a bow is when we talk about bringing in price points and we have our lower price points for us for our stores at Herring Stones, lower price point means like 40, like 34 to 56. And then we go to the middle of the road, then we have our higher over 100. How important is it? Because I've been coached on this. Is it to have mixed price points in a rack and why? And tell the audience your strategy behind this and from a customer's psychology, which kind of leads us into that part of merchandising, why that's so important and what's your strategy behind that.
Yes, that is very important. So when we receive higher end product versus moderately priced, when a customer walks in the store and they start seeing the first rack is all high end, they might turn around and leave. And we don't want to be caught in that situation. So what we really practice in our stores is mixing those price points. If we have a high-end dress, right behind it is a moderately priced dress. So if they're looking for dresses, they've got several options of
Options.
price points. Same way with tops. Down below how we merchandise our shoes, same way there. If it's, a higher end shoe, we're going to make sure that we have a moderately priced shoe as well, because we need our customers to know from the very beginning that we have affordable product. That's on our tabletops. I mean, all throughout our store, price points are merged. It's if I had to say, if you share those price points in your store, that would be a huge tip, because we've seen it to where, oh, you're too pricey, and so we've learned lessons another don't, to make sure, especially in the front, because you want to make sure you keep them browsing,
Get
and
them to the
grab it
back.
and get them to the back, get them to the dressing
That's
room.
right.
So,
Good.
yes,
That's good there. So going off of that, build a rack with the audience. So whenever we're thinking about one of our, shorter racks, give them kind of a visual of what your process is behind building a rack.
Okay, so I'm just going to stay in the front of the store. So the first rack when you walk in, if we created all tops on that rack, the customer may not be looking for tops. We might lose them. All I saw was tops. I'm looking for a dress. So what we do, we merchandise a dress, top. Well, they need something to wear with a top. So we have a bottom. Then we go back with another option top if they didn't like that one. So there's 2 tops with a pant, a dress, and then we're going to come back in with another dress, and then so on and so forth. And then down below the rack, how we create our shoe displays, the shoes merchandise with those outfits on that rack.
And then when we're talking about textures, I know this is something I'm really big on, textures in a rack. Like, I don't want to see a whole satin rack. I like seeing a knit with the silk, with a denim, with like different sleeves. Like, I like that kind of mix. What's your opinion or strategy or suggestion when we're talking about textures?
100% agree on that, because there again, your customer, it's just a wide range of their mindset. If they don't like you mentioned, satin, then you've lost them if you don't mix it up. And even with prints, we have found that slapping up prints in one rack, it's not appealing.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's too much. And then solids is too bland, So, I mean, we're always saying, girls, let's add some prints in here. This is not popping. Or if it's too many prints, we need to pop it, Same way with colors, Hannah, with that being said. It's so important to pop in your neutrals, your creams, your whites. That pops for fall, we're in fall, your fall colors, and it gets too dark, And so it's so important to get that white in there and that cream, and to soften your rack up, to give it that flow. And, like a head to toe outfit, like absolutely in racks is a head to toe outfit. We'll even, have tables close to it to where they can add their belt and their jewelry, and the whole head to toe experience is built all throughout our store, 100% from front to back. Now, right now we have homecoming, so we do have a homecoming section for that, because it's a season.
This is a tricky season for us on merchandising. It's like we have little pockets in the store.
So in other words, with that being said, though, Hannah, we're not putting a homecoming dress in with our fall merchandise. Even if it's the same color, it's not the season in that rack. The season
to spin off of that, because we know homecoming is its own little niche. In 6 weeks, when homecoming closes out, and we still have homecoming dresses, is what we're calling them today, they then turn into fall cocktail wedding guests, engagement parties. So then we do merge them back into the store, because it then caters to majority.
Right. That would be an exception, right? Where you would create a section in your store dedicated just for homecoming.
That's right.
Like we were saying, don't create a section for like the high-end stuff or whatever. That gets all mixed in. But yeah.
And the reason we do that concept, because we'll miss sales because a dress is over in the right side of the store for homecoming, because it matched that rack. and so we miss showing it to the customer because it is so spread out. So that is the reason why we designate that season
And I gotta
in the
say, I was
store.
lucky enough to experience sales at your store back in the day
Yes, when you had your own
during
brand.
yeah, for homecoming, and I'd never seen anything like it. It was
Wild.
crazy in a
It
good
is
way.
wild.
It was
Yeah. It
crazy.
created a
Very cool.
monster. A good monster, but it is a monster. I'm sure our team would echo that.
Yes, but
It is for sure.
you've created that niche that you cover for yourselves.
Mhm.
Again, coming from originally Chicago, I'd never seen anything like it. I don't know that I ever will. I do
Definitely a
remember it was a
Southern
really
thing.
fun weekend, and it
Yes,
was
it's
fun to be on the floor. Yeah.
I
definitely a
love it.
Southern thing.
So tie that little rack story up, and then I want to get back to the wholesale side of things. But basically, to the audience, that strategy works, and it's amazing if you get it right. How quick your turns on when you think of the perfect scenario, and we do have those perfect scenarios where we get just the right amount of inventory at the perfect time, and we're able to put it in so beautifully with the right price point. So we're mixing price points from your $48 top to your $120 dress. You have several options of tops mixed with a couple bottoms, your perfect shoe, several option of dress price points, all mixed in a rack with different textures. That's like the perfect storm. That's what we always thrive to do. And you do see those turns happen very, very quickly. All of a sudden you look up on Monday morning and you're like, whoa, that hard work I just put in that beautiful racket is now gone and it is now time for the next. I was at the store this morning thinking the exact same thing. I was like, we need more
Mhm.
merchandise so we can get this perfectly done for the weekend. But that strategy works. It's something that you can definitely play around with. But let's bring it back to Sonia because I want to go back. I think that we're going to have lots of vendors listening to us as well. And I think it's interesting. Like we like to learn the psychology of our consumers, but I know that Sonia, your vendors like to understand the psychology of us, which, and I know we're a good time. We're all a
If
bunch of
we must
crazy.
say for ourselves, sure.
If we're all a bunch of crazy retailers out in the
If you're
world, the
with
vendors,
me, we're a good time
Yeah.
we're a good time.
on top of it.
But
Yes.
what kind of suggestions could you give back to the marketplace for vendors? Because I know that, like you had mentioned earlier in the episode, that you wish that they gave a little bit more time and effort into their window displays, or maybe making their showroom a little bit easier to see the best sellers or what does work. Because sometimes it is like a mosh pit in there. You're like digging for
Mhm.
gold, trying to find the next best thing that's going to make you some money. What suggestions would you give to your vendors? Because, I mean, I know I could have some pointers for them. Just curious what you think.
Well, unlucky for them, they probably all know how I feel because we know how shy I am about giving my opinion. But I think it plays to the same thing Debbie was saying. We're also consumers. It's a little bit different because you were saying don't put all your satin stuff in one section, but you may walk into a vendor where what they're known for are their satin dresses.
Correct.
Can't do anything about that.
But for us, we need that. We need their stats to be in one place, you know?
Correct,
So it is
correct.
different.
So it is different in that sense. Do not color coordinate for wholesale selling, please, for the love of God. I know it looks pretty. I know it looks pretty when it's color coordinated, but I think you guys can agree with me when
We're
you're
not going to the
looking
orange
at a
section.
top exactly, and you go, oh, what other colors does this come in? And you're looking at the tag. Well, we all know the names of the colors that are given could be anything.
Correct.
Green is not sometimes green,
Yeah.
and so
5 shades.
then you have to wait for them to run around and find the other 3 colors of that garment. And I always remind vendors, I'm like, when we're buying, it's very like we're making decisions like in that moment. A garment's exciting us, and the minute you have to start digging for the other 3 colors, you kind of check out sometimes. Unless you're dying over something, you're just like over it.
Yeah.
One suggestion would be like, do not color coordinate. Like we're on time. It's different with retail because we want to keep that customer in the store as long as possible. Searching, digging, going through all the racks. With wholesale buying, we're just gonna go to the next and the next and the next. And there's
Yeah.
10 other people with similar stuff. And so
Correct.
the selling, the buying needs to be made easier for the buyer. Yes, the windows matter. Because
The
like I
windows
was saying,
matter.
windows
The
matter.
windows matter 100%.
Change
Because
it
if
all the
there's
time.
nothing in that window that's going to draw me in, there's 500 million showrooms down there. Like the ones that we walk, we're like, oh, we get sidetracked, we'll squirrel off is always because of a window, or the little
Correct.
mannequins that are right there in the center that are all displayed nicely.
Correct. And to
So
me,
important.
I think separating in stocks from futures is really important. Like
Agree.
when you mix it in, it's so frustrating to me
Yeah.
because I
Agreed.
have to then in my head go, okay, yes, no, maybe. Like if I know all of this is available, then I'm picking different. When it's all future, I'm picking different. I may pick more because it's not all going to come at the same time. So I think that's important. Yeah, that makes me crazy. Again, I'm in and out of showrooms in minutes. You guys have been with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, even when
Yeah.
we're all together, I'm like, okay, guys, let's go. Chop, chop. Gotta get to the next, and we gotta get to the next. But sometimes the vendors don't make it easy for you to just make
Yeah. I
decisions
feel
and
like
move along.
mannequins and a bestseller rack is key from my point of view. Like if I can get in, I'm interested because of the mannequins. I see the bestsellers. Like that's where I'm at.
Trusting they're all bestsellers, and I do
Trusting
trust them.
that. But that's where you
I
come into
do
play. That's your
trust
job.
them.
That's your job.
Yeah. Yes. I know it's been a bestseller, but you've been cutting it for 4 years. Get it?
Right. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I think
On to
we
the
talked
next
about that
bestseller.
last week. Last week,
Yeah.
I think we talked about that a little bit about, okay, when is the trend over? Like, when's it
Yeah.
time to move
When do we
on?
give it?
I love it. All right. I want to hit on one last thing before we wrap up. And it's really about a little bit more on the retail side of things, but she's our CMO and founder. So everything that has to do with marketing or visuals, she is definitely the one that we go to at the end of the day. She is the end all be all for all things
She's
visual
Queen
merchandising.
Bee.
Queen Bee merchandiser. So whenever we're thinking about website versus our storefronts, tell the audience how you think the importance. I mean, they're both important, but tell us why for both reasons. They kind of mesh, but what's your
Well, your website shopper, you want them to feel like they're in your store. They just can't get to your store. So you want to try to create the visuals on your website, that same mindset, the wow factor, so that they click through, not just page 1, page 2, page 3,
Seamless.
page 4, seamless. And the merchandising is so, so important. And we're so blessed to have creators on our team that knocks it out of the park and keeps that wow factor going. And it does. And there again, it's like the store. Hannah will say, look, Youngsville needs a flip tomorrow. And because it just gets a little stale to us, maybe not to the customers, but sales do fall off some. And it's
quick
no
question?
different.
Whenever we say that, when we go and visually see a store and we're like, oh, we need to get in here real quick. What happens to the revenue the next day?
The next day, the sales are there. It's the beatenest thing I've ever seen. And it's no different than the website.
But if it's stale to you, it is stale to the customer.
Right.
Trust me. I know you're seeing it every day, but they see it. I guess they don't notice so much what hasn't changed, but they notice when it does change. And
Right.
so
Yeah, I like that.
that perks their curiosity. They're like, oh, they must have gotten new stuff. Maybe you didn't get a new shipment, but because you shuffled things around,
Right.
you might as well have gotten a new shipment because that's half of that stuff never got seen by that customer.
It's the
So
beatenest
important.
thing how we do that, because we're thinking, oh my gosh, it's the middle of summer. We need to move the merchandise out. We're trying to get fall goods in. We've got to get this inventory out. And it's aging and all the things, and we don't want it to get there to that bad spot of aging. And so we'll redo the store, and we tell each other, oh my gosh, the store looks amazing. I'm so glad we did this, because that over there, I didn't even realize we still had it, and customers don't either. So that's why the visual import is and it's a key factor. It just is. And it's like that, back to your question, Hannah, on the website as well.
Do you guys ever re-merchandise and go, okay, nobody touch it?
Yep.
Yes. After you spend 8 hours killing yourself, and I'm like, okay,
Don't let anybody touch it.
Yes, we do, but we want the sales more.
Yeah,
So
the minute once it gets touched, I'm like, all right, my job is done.
Yeah. At least you can turn off the lights at night and be like, it'll be at least like this till noon tomorrow. All that work.
Yeah, or no, 10:05. We open at 10.
Okay.
That's why we try to get our marketing team in before everything gets crazy again, so we can get all the visuals and the pictures and make reels and all the stuff for all the hard work that went in, but it does turn
But it
into
matters.
profit. So that's what matters the most. That's right.
Right. Because
Speaking
we
of
send you
remerchandising,
sorry,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. You go.
No, I was gonna say because we can send you all the cute merchandise in the world, but if you're not doing your part on your end,
Right.
what does it matter?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It
It
could
doesn't.
sell, but it could sell better.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're going to have, if you want to maximize your business and you're not okay with okay, then you better merchandise
You should
your
never be
stores.
okay with just okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
ever,
Never.
about
yeah,
Not
anything.
no,
on this business.
no.
Not
I'm
in
not
anything.
not in anything. I'm not, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But, point being, maximizing, which is what we do. We maximize, our business and everything we do. Like Sonia said, it shouldn't just be your business. And in order to maximize, merchandising is key. And it needs to be a focus every single week and definitely
Mhm.
before the weekend. We really strive to make sure that our stores are ready, set to go on Thursdays every single week.
I say well, I tell a lot of my clients, ultimately think of yourself as the consumer, the end consumer.
Mhm.
How would you like things done? Like in your ideal world, what would be perfection if
Right.
the boutique did this all the time or had things like this? And so like you blend a lot of those things in to give your customer that full experience. It's not what looks cute. Sometimes cute doesn't sell, That's why I say like, yeah, a booth, as you know, when we go to Magic or whatever, oh, it's pretty. All the oranges, all the blues, all the greens. It's easy on the eyes. It's pretty, but I think it affects sales. And I don't know that some vendors understand that.
Right.
I
I
can totally
agree.
see where you're coming
Because
from
I
on
mean,
that.
I'm guilty of walking into a showroom and it looks good, and we circled through and walked out. It just didn't have that. I got to have
Feel
everything punch,
Yeah.
or
and
let me
that's
look
what
in here because you feel like you're seeing sort of everything when you're seeing all the different,
Mhm.
colors. You go, I don't know, nothing's popping out. Oh, let's keep going.
And look, just because we know that that's important and everything, there's days where we'll merchandise, and the next day we might say a table or whatever is just not what we thought it would be, and we don't leave it like that. We make a change, even though we just did it. We realize it's just you have to stay on top of it. Because you're, especially tables, it's so much real estate and you want to move it. A stack of jeans, if it's still sitting, you have a stack of jeans a few days later, it's not the right spot for it.
So
And
ultimately, your merchandiser should have ADD.
yeah, well,
HG actually.
well, and I can tell
Say
you
that too.
and we've talked about
That's what
this,
I meant.
we cannot even keep this up. It's not sustainable for just a few people to keep up 5 stores. But I'm so proud to say our team has really learned and they're training and they're filling in gaps where we have sold the real estate. It's not time for us to get in there and merchandise. They're trained to get full stock product and replace it. And
Mhm.
that is so important because your tables need to turn. They need to turn a
Mhm.
lot. And so if it's not turning or if it turns and you've got one top left, it's time for that one top to come off and another stack goes on there. And that's what we've really trained over the last couple of years is keeping that real estate primed up because that's how you keep those turns going.
Yep.
And I think a good rule we like typically have all stores merchandise by Thursdays if everything like this week's crazy because it's a holiday week. So we'll be merchandising probably the next couple of days to get ready for the Saturday. That's not the typical, but typically we're done by Thursdays. So by the time we go in, starting like on Tuesdays, if that table is stagnant, you would know. Like you give yourself the weekend, but you'll come in like whenever I come in on like Mondays or Tuesdays just to kind of put my eye on the store to see what my workload's going to be like that week. You can tell those tables sell down so fast. Like it's amazing how well tables sell product. It's crazy if you do it right.
And you've trained your customer to
Shop it.
kind of
Yeah.
right, shop it, seek
It
it,
takes the
look for
right
it.
product
Well, and the thing
to
about it is the tabletops, have the head to toe styling, and that's what's the visual part of it. The jean, the sweater, the belt, the earrings are beside, and we've incorporated tables into our boutiques over the last couple of years. I would say that's probably the upgrade that we've done is the tabletops because we've realized how much they are shopped, how much money you make off of those tables. And if
Mhm.
you stay on top of it, you can really make some dollars off of them.
Yep. Good.
Right
Good
now, a
point.
black leather squirt stacked up in quantities would make you a lot of money, and we keep getting small quantities. We need to rack those leather skirts. They need to be
Those
sitting this thick on that table. They like this.
For that hot, swampy Louisiana
Well,
weather, right?
and you start, okay, that brings another point to the merchandising. When you start seeing exactly what Hannah just spoke of, you may not see that hanging in a rack. And
Mhm.
now she don't want 6 skirts on her tabletop. She wants 12 because she
Mhm.
wants to get that volume in and probably
Mhm.
wants to back it up knowing she has them coming. That's one example, but those tabletops show those quantities. And so we've been able to make more money off of buying decisions. And we're always saying, oh, that's a table topper. That's a table topper. So let's get 2 packs. So okay, already just this conversation, that's changed over the last few years with
And you're
merchandise.
visually seeing the sell through just by walking in the door. You don't have to go run a report. You already, I'm sure you walk
Yeah,
in, you ask the
yeah,
girls like, what happened to all the skirts that were here? And they're like, no, we sold them.
That's
yeah.
You
right.
don't have to run and get a report.
Easy.
You're like, got to get on those
Right.
skirts.
And so
Easy.
now, and then that puts a system in place. So with 5
Mhm.
stores, how am I going to know that all those stores sell their skirts? So now we have a system in place on reorders, so it just one thing leads to another. And then all
New
of a sudden
discovery.
you're starting to see that scale again because, with COVID and everything changed, everything went crazy. They were buying paper bags. We could sell paper bags. And then things went back to 2019 and all the things. And now, but with these new strategies in place, though, it's a faster process in starting your scaling again.
Well, thank you for that, Debbie. That's
Yeah,
very
so good.
insightful.
So today, let's do some takeaways for our listeners. Let's start with you, Sonia. What's one way the wholesale vendors can help boutiques improve their visuals?
I would say to look at it this way. If I'm house hunting, in this case, apparel, clothing, and I'm driving past a home, the curb appeal matters. Does that make me want to, let's say I'm driving around for like open houses on Sunday, and that curb appeal is going to make me decide to go in or not. So in this case, that would be, like you were saying, the windows. If you have a window, use it. I walk by every day and I can tell you there's vendors who haven't changed their mannequins for weeks and weeks and weeks. There's still summer dresses on mannequins. I know traffic has died down somewhat because of all the online platforms and whatnot, but there's still people walking around. And with less of them walking around, think of it as a fly in a trap. Do whatever it takes to
Get 'em
at
in.
least get them in the door. If you
Yeah,
can get them in the door, you have
you're
a
golden.
better shot at having a sale. So, yeah, focus on that showroom, the layout of your merchandise, and keep things fresh because there's still a lot of us walking out there every day. And we need to show you guys what's new, what's fresh.
That's
And
right.
if you're not getting me in there, you know, I've created habits on, again, the do's and don'ts, and you learn. But I'm not going to lie. If it's 100 degrees outside and nothing's changed, I'm going past. I'm going to the next place and the
Yeah.
next place.
Thank you.
That pulls me
Next.
in.
And then Debbie, what is one or mom? Sorry, I get confused throughout the day. I don't know whether to call her Debbie or mom.
It's always mom.
I'll be like tapping. I'm like, hang on, wrong. Debbie, mom, Debbie. Well,
It's always mom.
our Slack says Debbie, and my text says mom, so it gets rather challenging.
Dommy.
Today, mommy.
No, I said Dommy.
What's one quick fix that the boutiques can try today? What's one little suggestion you could give some one of our boutique friends out in the world?
Go back to the styling head to toe on your racks and merchandising your racks for your customers' easy eye appeal. And people are so busy; they don't have time to do all the looking and browsing like used to. So
They want you
my
to think for them.
yes, they're coming in because they trust and know us that we're going to style them head to toe. And I think it starts with the rack or the table.
I agree. Totally agree. Well, this was a
How
good
about
little
you,
chat,
Hannah?
ladies.
Wait, we want you to wrap it up. What's your takeaway?
I would say one mistake that boutique owners or merchandisers should avoid would be overcrowding a table or overcrowding a rack. So it's like you have to kind of, you don't want to undercrowd, you don't want to overcrowd. So it just takes that eye to kind of really
To move
see
those hangers.
Got to be able to move the hangers, and then you don't want to be able to move them too much, because then you
Or
look
too little.
understocked. Yeah, so I think definitely not to overcrowd would be a nice thing to kind of try to avoid. So that's something that like you could try today. You could try to go build a rack with some textures and price points and color palettes. Picking a print, I like to pick one print and then build the color stories off of that print, and then place one shoe or two shoes under the rack, depending on how the width of the rack is, and see what you get. I think it would be a fun little project for y'all who aren't equipped to merchandising to the standard that I think that I think it's just so important, and visual merchandising isn't just pretty, it's how you make your money. That's where the profit comes from. So, so important, but
That's
really
right.
awesome conversation today. I think, both sides, retail and wholesale, have really great pointers from both sides of the experience from you
Yeah.
ladies. Been doing this
And
for a long time.
And with the viewers, we'd love to hear what works for you. What are your ideas? Maybe there's something we don't know, you guys haven't tried. So definitely chime in, leave it in the comments. We're all here to learn and create a community and help each other through this crazy fashion world.
It is crazy and it is fast.
That's
So
why they
fast.
call it fast fashion.
That is not Sonia's choice of a word. What do you like to call it, Sonia? I never can
Trend-
remember.
Forward fashion.
Trend forward fashion.
Yes.
That's more elevated. I agree with that.
Yes. Yes.
I
Not-
love it.
We're not Shein over here.
No, no.
So
Did I say that out
quick-
loud? Oops.
Yeah.
Oopsies. Quick question. So are y'all like gonna do a little podcast in Hawaii, or like what's the plans?
Hawaii, my schedule for Hawaii is so booked.
So we're gonna skip that and talk about Hawaii on our next podcast. Like
That
we need to
I-
at least chat about it.
possible. For sure. I'm gonna try and get some live comments and some videos and shorts
Yes.
of buyers and feedback and thoughts and all the fun
Yes,
things that'll be
Definitely do
happening.
that. Then we could do another episode, and that would be fun. Fun little
Mhm.
chatter. Well, this
Yeah.
was fun. I feel like we all have lots of work to get back to.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we love
Thanks
it.
for joining.
Get-
And just
get
to
into it.
preface, we are in our warehouse, and I'm in one room and she's in the next, and our girls are working their little fingers off trying to get merchandise tagged for us so we can rush them to all the stores. Mom's headed to the Baton Rouge location right after this. So lots going on in the background, if y'all were wondering. I'm usually at my house, but
Well,
we made it work.
Yes, we did. Thank you again for watching, and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. And again, like I said, comments are important and we love the feedback and any
Yes.
topics you think we could probably touch on. So thank you
Awesome.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eh.